Our final presenter is a perennial favorite for this crowd. She's been with us since the very beginning, and every time I introduce her, it seems it's incumbent on me to announce that she has yet another book that is either on or about to be on the New York Times bestseller list. 7 of them. And she's putting the finishing touches on her newest offering, a title that only she can get away with when writing a book about liberals. I kid you not, the title is Demonic. It's absolutely guaranteed to be bestseller number 8, and ladies and gentlemen, I'm starting to find this quite obscene. She's a legal correspondent for Human Events and a popular syndicated columnist for the United Press Syndicate. She's one of the most sought-after conservative personalities on the college speaker circuit, and whether it's on college campuses or national television, pity the liberal fool who thinks he can take her on. Ladies and gentlemen, thank God she's my friend, is all I can say. Ann Coulter.
Thank you. I have a bittersweet award tonight. It's the Ode to Keith Olbermann. And like many of you, since he was fired by MSNBC, there's been a hole in my life. I keep trying to watch Rachel, but you just sit back and say, Keith would have been so much crazier. You're probably wondering why I'm giving this award tonight. There are a number of reasons. First, of course, both Keith and I are girls. We also both went to college in Ithaca, New York. I went to the Ivy League Cornell School of Arts and Sciences, and Keith went to the old McDonald Cornell School of Agriculture. I wouldn't mention it except that Keith is compulsively telling people, lyingly saying he went to the Ivy League Cornell, desperate to have people think of him as a major egghead. Of course, never ever reading anything that isn't on a left-wing blog is not a good way to have people think of you as a heavy-duty intellectual. Thirdly, I'm an early Keith watcher. I know a lot of you Johnny-come-latelys are sad that he's gone now. By the time MSNBC fired Keith, about 80% of his audience were right-wingers to laugh at him. But I was an early Keith watcher. I saw the promise in that man. I'm hoping that someday, I'm sure some of the early Keith watchers were also at Media Research Center. I think our descendants should form a group like the 49ers, descendants of the 49ers, the Daughters of the American Revolution, descendants of the early Keith watchers. If I had to choose, well, if you told me choose one adjective to describe Keith Olbermann, I couldn't do it. You'd put a gun to my head, I couldn't do it. But if I had 3 adjectives, I would say he is prissy, pompous, and hysterical, which is a dynamite combo platter.
Shut the hell up!
Sadly, even MSNBC finally realized that not being popular in high school is not a good enough reason to have a TV show. We're sorry for what the popular football players did to you, but you cannot seek revenge by ranting for 1 hour on TV every night. Throughout his brief, troubled career at MSNBC, Keith brought to bear all the vast knowledge he learned by being a second-tier sports host on a cable TV show. With his motor set to full pompous, this is Keith in his prime, offering his objective assessment of Scott Brown, a candidate for the U.S. Senate in Massachusetts.
In Scott Brown, we have an irresponsible, homophobic, racist, reactionary, ex-new model, teabagging supporter of violence against women and against politicians with whom he disagrees. In any other time in our history, this man would have been laughed off the stage as an unqualified and a disaster in the making by the most conservative of conservatives.
With an endorsement like that, Scott Brown became the first Republican senator from Massachusetts in 38 years.
Shut the hell up.
It was quite an accomplishment considering he was replacing a senator who had driven off a bridge and drowned a girl. Keith's ag school degree really came in handy when he announced his fascinating theory that Rush Limbaugh was responsible for Timothy McVeigh bombing the federal building in Oklahoma City.
What was a more likely cause of the Oklahoma City bombing? Talk radio or Bill Clinton and Janet Reno's hands-on management of Waco, the Branch Davidian compound, and maybe to a lesser extent Ruby Ridge? Well, obviously the answer is talk radio, specifically Rush Limbaugh's hate radio. Limbaugh claimed others would have blood on their hands in the event of future right-wing terrorism. Frankly, Rush, you have that blood on your hands now, and you have had it for 15 years.
Ironically, Keith is going to have a blood-removing hand cleanser as a sponsor for his new, sure-to-be-hit runaway internet TV show, asking me to pick a favorite Keith Olbermann hissy fit is like asking a mother to choose her favorite child. Michael Moore to pick his favorite dessert. But of all of Keith's on-air cries for help, this surely is one of my favorites.
Everything you said about Iraq yesterday and everything you will say is a deception for the purpose of this one cynical, unacceptable, brutal goal, perpetuating this war indefinitely. War today, war tomorrow, war forever. A man with any self-respect, having inadvertently revealed such an evil secret, would have already resigned and fled the country. You have no remaining credibility about Iraq, sir. Mr. Bush, our presence in Iraq must end, even if it means your resignation, even if it means your impeachment, even if it means a different Republican to serve out your term.
He would have thrown a shoe at Bush, but he throws like a girl. Having given serious consideration to these stellar nominations, our judges have a verdict, and the winner is... This was a mistake. It's the Rush Limbaugh clip. It's the Rush Limbaugh clip.
Like the corners of my mind.
Frankly, Rush, you have that blood on your hands now, and you have had it for 15 years.
Misty watercolor memories of the way we
Unfortunately, Keith couldn't be with us here tonight because... Can you stop the music? Seems to be going on a little long. We really like the clips better. Unfortunately, Keith couldn't be with us here tonight because he's updating his MySpace page. But joining us in his stead is U.S. Representative in his 5th term, Steve King. He is on the House Judiciary Committee.
You're a grand old flag, you're a high-flying flag, and forever in peace may you wave. You're the emblem of the land I love, the home of the free and the...
Here he is. So much for his introduction. He's my favorite congressman.
Thank you. Thank you, Ann. Well, of course, I'm here because I drew the short straw. And I'm also doing a little bit of math around here tonight. I am the ranking member of the Worst Person in the World caucus. But it is a special honor to be here to accept the Ode to Olbermann Award on behalf of Keith Olbermann, who is a special friend of the Media Research Center. Special. And let's face it, is there any other media personality alive today, and that's an important clause, who offered more direct fundraising fodder than this man? He was like the conservative movement's personal ATM machine, mine included. I've missed you, Keith. I need you. I've got a campaign coming up. But you've been banished off to a network that I'm going to mention, and it'll be the first time many of you have heard of it. Tonight I accept this award on behalf of and stand on the shoulders of and any other painful anatomical part of Keith Olbermann. This giant, this 21st century de Tocqueville. But think of this, ladies and gentlemen, MSNBC's loss is, here's the network, current TV's gain. Now you've heard it here first, folks. This is a news flash. When you think of life's career paths, this is an exit ramp to irrelevance. Olbermann has officially gone from irrelevant to unheard of, and only the walking strategic biodiesel reserve, Al Gore, could be happy to have Keith Olbermann on his payroll today. Yeah, I made that up at the table. Perhaps because Olbermann may be the last person on the face of this planet who thinks Al Gore knows what he's talking about. I suspect good old Keith will start savaging us as soon as his new show on current TV is running. But like the proverbial tree falling in the forest, if no one hears him scream, does Keith Olbermann exist? Well, I, for one, am glad we have him. I know you're surprised to hear me say that, but he is living testimony to the brilliance of our Bill of Rights, uppermost being our freedom of speech. We as conservatives will be the first in line to defend his right to speak what's on his mind, with the certain knowledge that the more he speaks what's on his mind, the less we realize is actually in it. Thank you very much, and I very much appreciate the opportunity to accept this award on the part of Keith Olbermann and on behalf of all of us worst persons in the world together. Thank you very much.